Good morning and welcome to North Point Christian Church online stream. We're excited to have you here this morning and join us. To all of our new friends that have found us over the past few weeks as we've been live streaming, welcome. To all of our wonderful North Point family, we love and miss you, and we can't wait till we can be back together as one at church on Sundays. But we're excited that we get to worship together in this new format. I'm here inside of the Lighthouse in one of our children's ministry classrooms. This is actually the 2s and 3s classroom. Our 2s and 3s normally are sitting here on Sunday morning at this time, hearing the word of the Lord. And so it's sad that this room is empty today, but I know soon enough this room will not be empty, and we will be able to love on our kids and have great lessons and fun in this classroom again. The Lighthouse has had some renovations and some updates during our closure and just right before our closure. All of the rooms have been painted. It's beautiful. And so when you come back in, there's going to be some fun changes for you. So I look forward to that. I know that when we do get to come back together, I know we're all going to be excited, and it's going to be a great time of celebration. But today is also a great time of celebration, and we as a church have been collecting food. We've done a food and supply drive for the Navajo Nation, and so we appreciate everyone who donated, and all of that food is going to be on their way to Gallup, New Mexico soon. And thank you so much for how generous you were. We were going to have some other ways that you're going to be able to help some people in our own community, and so we're asking you to be looking out on your email for some other ways that we're going to be able to support some families and some people in need in our own community. So be watching for that email. I want to encourage you that on May the 28th to be on Facebook Live at 7 p.m. We are going to honor our high school graduates. So join us May 28th, 7 p.m. Get online and post lots of wonderful comments towards our high school graduates. Let's give them lots of love and support. They deserve it. We love them. We know it's an unusual time and a different time for them as they graduate. So let's give them lots of love as we can. May the 28th, 7 p.m. As we prepare for today's service online, I want to tell you that we are going to be talking through the same passages that we did last week. We're going to be in Ephesians 4, 1 through 16. We're going to project the passage on the screen. I'd like to encourage you to pick someone in your own family that's watching with you today who will read these verses out loud for those of you that are together in your own homes. So pick that person now who's going to read the verses out loud. Are you ready?
Good morning. I am really glad to be here with you this day. I don't know. It is really weird. I have talked to a lot of you this week and last week, and just to hear that you share this like genuine delight in at meeting in these moments, it kind of cracks me up because it is so foreign, and who would have thought that something so out of the ordinary would mean so much to so many of us. To you that are new to North Point, we honestly hope to meet you face to face one of these days. So it's really, really important that you let us know who you are. You can do it in the comments on Facebook or on YouTube. We'll find it. Although that's kind of public. The other thing you can do is you can write to office@npcc.cc. This is way better than the Where's Waldo look that we've had, and so if you don't have that, write it down. Send us a message, and I promise we'll get back to you. As we do every week, whether it is online or in person, we share communion with each other. And I want you to make sure that you go right now, and have your juice and your bread or whatever you are going to use, have it with you right now, because we're going to do this earlier than what we've been doing. So make sure you run and get that. And I'll give you just a second. Let's face it, we are restless people these days. No matter where you fall on the issues of opening and closing and the politics of decision making that we are dealing with in our corner of the world, or even in your corner of the world, you are probably dealing with a restlessness in your soul. This whole experience that we are going through is leaving so many people frustrated or uneasy or even anxious about what my life or what your life is going to look like a month from now or even a year from now. There's some lyrics to a song that we have often sung together here at North Point. We sing these words: our praises filling up the spaces between our frailty and everything you are. You are the keeper of my heart. In many ways, I've come to see communion as a whole lot like Mondays. You see, in our culture, in my upbringing, in our experience, Mondays have become the day that we start over. It's a new week. It's where we can erase the past and get on with something else. And so communion, I think, is that way. It's this tangible place where we can lay aside lay aside what is bothering us, lay aside the mistakes, lay aside the sin, and grab a hold of everything that Jesus has come to give us. So as you share communion with your family right now, get mine. As you share communion with whatever kind of juice or bread you have with you, let the words of that song draw you away from the restlessness that threatens to steal all of the joy and draw you into the presence of the keeper of your heart. Let's share communion together.
Songs that we got singing between our frailty and everything you are. You are the keeper of my heart. And I am restless, I am restless until I rest in you. Let me rest in you. I am restless, so restless until I rest in you. Let me rest in you, oh God. Oh, speak now, for my soul is listening. Say that you have saved me. Whisper in the dark, 'cause I know you're more than my salvation. Without you, I am hopeless. Tell me who you are. You are the keeper of my heart. You are the keeper of my heart. And I am restless, I am restless until I rest in you, until I rest in you. I am restless, so restless until I rest in you. Let me rest in you. Still my heart, hold me close. Let me hear a still small voice. Let it grow, let it rise into a shout, into a cry. Oh, still my heart, hold me close and let me hear a still small voice. Let it grow, let it rise into a shout, into a cry. And I am restless, I am restless until I rest in you. Let me rest in you. I am restless, so restless until I rest in you. Let me rest in you, oh God. Let me rest in you.
I want us to return to where we were last week. None of us are immune to doubt and frustration with God. We struggle with our belief when difficulty and tragedy pop up. Why is it? Why is it more often than not we are more like spiritual toddlers than old, wise men and women? Well, part of the reason is many of you are not old. There's something that happens when you live long enough and you take enough bumps and scrapes and you go through enough things along the way that wisdom just sort of grows on you. But wisdom is not an age thing. Reason that we struggle with this is because there really are no instant heroes. There are no accidental spiritual giants. You don't get there simply by aging out and getting to the end. In fact, age is sometimes completely irrelevant. In all of my years in youth ministry, it was not uncommon to see a kid in the youth group that had way more spiritual depth and way more spiritual integrity than their own parents. And it created conflict. It happens sometimes. The fact of the matter is, there is a path to spiritual growth. And you have to choose to walk it. And nobody can do it for you. And listen, if you don't do it, you're going to die. I mean, spiritually, you're just going to shrivel up and die, because the beatings that we take in life are strong and powerful. Beat us down. My personal world is littered with friends of mine whose faith has been shipwrecked because there was no preparation, there was no planning, there was no work put in ahead of time, and life came along and blindsided them. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not about coming to a church meeting. Look, I get it. I love being together as much as the next person, maybe more than most, and I can't wait for that time to come when we can all be back together again. But what I'm talking about here right now is not about going through the church motions and programs and traditions and all of that kind of stuff. Truth, coming to a church meeting once a week or twice a week is not our spiritual life. It was never designed to be. What I'm talking about is this necessary work that brings order and structure, and where spiritual stability and depth can be hammered out. It's this place where we take our spiritual journey serious. And so that brings us to today. This is why we need each other. And more than that, this is why we need each other to be better, deeper, stronger, more like Jesus. Look, everybody loves a good motivational video. The background music and the emotions and all this stuff that kind of pumps us up. Here, check this one out. This one will get you ready to go out and do sit-ups today.
When you step out on that field, everyone is equal. Talent, it means nothing. They may be more talented than you, but if you show more heart, if you show more focus, if you just decide this day that you will never accept second place to anyone, if you do that, if you all do that, there's no one we cannot defeat, and there's no one that will want to challenge us ever again. So do you want to go out there like every other player, like every other team, or do you want to stand up this day to make this day count?
Make it count. Leave your heart and soul out on that field. Make them remember who you are. Make them scared to ever set foot on the field with you ever again. Make them remember who you are. They will remember who you are. Make it count.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Every tackle, make it count. Every challenge, make it count. Every contest, make it count. Every shot, every pass, make it count. Every tackle, every challenge, every contest, every shot, every pass, make it count.
Stand up this day. This day you write your future. You decide who will walk away the winner. No one else. Today, if you go down, get back up. If you feel pain, tell yourself, there is no pain. The only pain that exists is the pain of defeat. And today, we will not be defeated. If your opponent is tough, you must be tougher. Today, we make it count. Today, we set the tone for the rest of our career, for the rest of our lives. That tone is of someone who will not be defeated. A warrior, a beast, someone that is not of this world. Your opponent will have no choice but to give up because you will not. He will have no choice. Fight with every fiber in your body to win every challenge, every tackle, to win this day. Are you ready to fight? Are you ready? Get out there and make this day count.
Whoa, are you not ready? Are you ready to get out there? I would hate to be a kid in your house right now because kids, your parents are fired up to make this day count, make you get up and get out and get moving again. You know, there's just something about all of that music and all of the tone of voice and everything that goes on that can fire us up for like 30 minutes. It's what those things do. You know, last week I mentioned that there's this space between what God does and what I do. I want you to see it. It looks kind of like this. I want you to get this image in your head, this space in between the thing that God does and the thing that I do, the things that I do. That space is critical because it's almost like what the song says. The words of the song that Aaron sang earlier, the space between our frailty and everything that we are. It's that space right there. And what I want you to think about today is how we fill that space. And I don't want it to surprise you at all, but this is how I fill it in, especially when I read this passage out of Ephesians. The space between all of those amazing things that God does and all of the things that He is calling me to do, the space in between is where everything meets up together, and we can say we do this together. Not just God interacting in my life and not just me responding to Him, but it's also me responding to you and me responding to God. And we meet in the middle. Whenever I read the 4th chapter of Ephesians, and I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times in my life, I feel like I'm sitting at the feet of the Apostle Paul, and it becomes almost like his motivational speech for me to take my spiritual life seriously. It's like he's saying, you're gonna be in this war. You're gonna be in this battle. The question is whether or not you are going to be ready for it when it comes. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I read the Bible, even after all of these years, no matter how passionate or how moving or how emotional I try to make it sound, when I read the Bible, especially out loud sometimes, it can still sound kind of dull or even predictable. There's a word that we always used about this in youth ministry. We would say that something just sounded and felt churchy. And it was the quickest way possible to click it off and tune it out. Most of the time, I think maybe it would be better sometimes if there was some really emotional, powerful background music that came on every time I read the Bible, because then maybe it would it would touch me deeply. Well, it can touch you deeply. And you don't need music, and you don't need some fired up coach to read the Bible to you. You just need to read it. You need to listen to it, what it says. So we're going to try it again. We're going to try looking at this passage again. Not the whole thing, but just like 5 verses of it, 5 or 6 verses. And I want you to know that this is what I hear when I read these verses. Here's what Paul, 2,000 years ago, says to me today about how the church works and what living by faith in Jesus is all about. Let's go back to verse 11 where this section begins. He says, "So it was Jesus who who himself appointed the apostles and prophets and evangelists and pastors and teachers to equip his people for works of service." Here's what this says. Look, God has put people into your life. Some who are older and wiser, some who are more experienced, some who are more gifted and talented, some who are simply just more mature and maybe a little bit farther along on the spiritual path than you are. And God has put them there to help make you ready to be useful in the world for the good of God's kingdom and for the benefit of the people that he has placed us around. These older, wiser, more experienced followers of Jesus, they do it by their words and by their actions and by their choices and their decisions. And we watch them and we see them. And we can see how this journey is supposed to look. We see it by their love and by their example, by their integrity and their honesty about what a life of faith is like, which sometimes is full of doubt and full of discouragement. It can be there. But listen, here's the deal. You've got to get close to these people. You've got to walk with them. You have to listen to them. You have to pay the price to learn from the people that God has placed in your way. This was God's plan. This is the God does part. That's what he does for us. And he does it all the time. He is relentless in providing for us the people that we need. Let the quality and substance of their lives rub off on yours. This is how a life of faith develops. You cannot do this on your own. Nobody can. Look at how he continues in this passage down into verse 13. "So the body of Christ may be built up until we all reach unity in the faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God and become mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ." Look, these people that God has put in your way, that God has brought into your life, they are not perfect. They are far from perfect. But they are living out their faith and commitment to Christ so that the church will be strong, so that the church will be unified, so that you and I can deepen and grow up and become more like Jesus in every way. I've had those kinds of people in my life. And there is absolutely no way I would be anything at all near the person that I am had it not been for their love, and their wisdom, and their fearless, sometimes determination to speak truth into my life, even when it was painful or difficult for me to hear it. They loved me enough to do it. And I hope that in some small way I have become that kind of person to others. But here's the amazing thing. This is what you can be for the people in your circles. The people that God has brought into your life who need light, who need hope, who need direction, who need to know this Jesus who has rescued you. I want you to get this picture kind of in your head. There's stuff that God does, and there is stuff that I am to do. And the way that I can do what God calls me to do is to do it together with people. That's God's plan. That's what He did when He created the church. Let's look at the next verse. It says, "Then we will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves, blown here and there by every wind of teaching and by the cunning and craftiness of men and their deceitful scheming." Oh gosh, I mean, he's painting this dark picture of the world that we live in. But if you want my opinion, even though it was written 2,000 years ago, it is accurate. It is today. It's the world we live in. So let's get started maturing and growing, so we won't be like spiritual babies anymore, whining about the situations that we find ourselves in, never knowing what to do or what to say, or how to connect what we are doing, how to connect what we are going through with what we believe. No longer being confused and easily influenced by the next Facebook post, or the next celebrity who has a stage, or the next new idea that comes rolling around. We need to, you need to, I need to turn to that faithful circle of mature people around us for wisdom and guidance as we face the difficult and confusing moments of our life. We need to know the whole truth, the simple truth, be able to show it and tell it in loving ways. We need to move on from being children to becoming grown-ups in our faith, having the character of Christ fully formed in us, fully absorbed into us, since He is the source and the provider of every good gift of grace we receive. He continues on, "Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will in all things grow up into Him who is the head, that is Christ." We've just got to grow up in our spiritual lives. It's time we got deeper and stronger in our thoughts and our motives and our actions and our reactions. We need to listen to those people that God has placed in our lives to encourage us and teach us. We need to follow their example of speaking the truth of Jesus' ways in love to those around us. We are part, even though we are separated right now, we are still part of a body that is connected. And unless everybody does its part, unless everybody does his or her part, we will never ever become what we are designed to be. Not as individuals, not as the church. Look at his final words in this section. "From Him," meaning Jesus, "the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work." I am sorry to tell you this, but you are not finished going through valleys and darkness and emptiness and mysteries. And you are not finished going through them alone sometimes. So let God use the people He has put into your life to help you, to teach you, to train you, to motivate and inspire you, to prepare you to make it through those moments with your faith stronger and your trust in God more profound. That's what all of us need. That's how we are held together. That's how we make it through these times. And that's how you will help others do the same. So be inspired this week. Let this be the week that your restlessness surrenders to confidence in God. Let this be a week that the grace and the greatness of God takes hold of your heart in ways you have only heard others talk about. Let this be the week that it becomes yours, because that's what God is holding out to you. If you want help, if you want prayer, if you want somebody to come alongside you, if you want to find out more about Jesus, if you want to be part of a church that will help you along your way, let us know. Let us know. Send us a message. Go write an email to us. Make a comment in the section below on Facebook. Do whatever it takes to let us know. We'll go through this with you because that's what the church does. We would love to become friends. And I hope that you and all of you can join us here next week, because we're going to keep looking at this and we're going to keep growing together. Have a great week as you go and serve Him.
Were the Word at the beginning, the one with God the Lord Most High. Your head in glory in creation, now revealed in you, our Christ. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus. Didn't want heaven without you. So Jesus, you brought heaven down. My sin was great, your love was greater. And what could separate us now? What a wonderful name it is. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a wonderful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus. Death could not hold you. The veil tore before you. You silenced the boast of sin and grave. The heavens are roaring the praise of your glory. For you are raised to life again. You have no rival. You have no equal. Now and forever, God, you reign. Your
fail.